Hey guys, welcome to Prime Homes Orlando's Primecast, where we talk all things Orlando real estate. I'm Khozaif, your host and your trusted realtor here at Coldwell Banker's PrimeHomesOrlando.com. And I'm very excited to bring you insider tips, market trends, and expert advice to help you navigate the very active Florida housing market. Today, I'm excited to welcome Vanessa Pierce, our very own managing broker here at Coldwell Banker. Vanessa has years of experience in the Orlando real estate market and is known for helping agents like myself navigate the industry with full integrity. Thank you for taking the time to join us, Vanessa.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Khozaif.
It's our very first episode, so
I'm
I
privileged.
figured who better to bring on than to bring on a mentor, a leader, and I thank you for all the guidance that you've given us. If it's okay with you, I'd like to dive in straight with the questions that I've prepared.
Absolutely.
That I think that would bring the most value to our viewers.
Yeah.
My first question is the obvious question. How did you get into real estate and what drew you to this career?
Well, I actually started out as a construction real estate paralegal. For 18 years, I did that. And for the managing owner, equity owner of that law firm, he actually opened up a title company and some other real estate offices that he later sold. And that got me, as I started doing the closings for them in conjunction to what I did for the law firm, I realized, these agents are having a lot of fun and they're making some really good money and they're changing people's lives, right? And the other thing I found is that there was always something different, even from the title aspect. So after seeing that, and as demanding as that career was, I decided that I really wanted to be somewhere that I was, working day to day with customers, but also having that flexibility so I could be the mother of my 3 children that I really wanted to be, because my husband had a very demanding job as well. So that's pretty much how I tipped my toe into this industry. I was privileged enough to work with an attorney for those 18 years that was married to a broker who also happened to be my real estate agent before I got into the business.
Interesting.
Sold 3 homes through him. And so I felt confident putting my license with him. I learned quickly what the sales and how it was in this industry and how some offices can be a shark tank, right? And some offices have different levels of support and guidance. And that kind of led me to Coldwell Banker, is looking for that type of support and tools and resources and, longevity in the industry that I knew would be a good support behind me. So after selling, right, and doing well and loving it, I kind of went back to why I changed brokerages to begin with, is that I knew it was hard being a new licensee to not be paired with somebody that was going to take me through that process, right, and give me the support and guidance that I needed. So I actually started doing part-time management out of our Coldwell Banker Winter Park office.
Okay.
And it slowly started turning in, like the winds just weren't helping people find that home or that investment property or whatever their journey was. It was having the wins with agents and showing them that they can do this. And, it doesn't have to be a sink or swim method. It can be a guided process, with working with the right people. And so it actually led to me congratulating one of my peers on becoming a broker of the Sand Lake office. And he was like, I'm glad you called. I need a full-time manager. I need you to come over here. And so I really had decided at that point, did I want to let go of sales, So started working there, did that for a year, and then became a broker because I just decided I really wanted to take this further and impact people in a way that they could really see a career out of this.
And how long have you been a broker for?
So I've been a broker for this office for 3.5 years now.
3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, something
and
interesting.
Management longer.
Something interesting you said. You said before you got into the world of real estate, you saw that, hey, all these agents are, having fun, they're making money, but
right.
it's not all it's not all glamour.
Yeah, you got to take the
right?
rose-colored glasses off, right?
Yeah.
It is harder than it looks, right? You're seeing when everybody's happy at the closing, like hopefully happy at the closing. But you're seeing them at that closing where they got to that finish line, but there's a lot to get to that finish line.
A lot. I can tell you
what I mean?
firsthand. And
Yeah.
I've learned recently, of course, but with your guidance, I've had it all, smooth. And the support in this office, like you said,
Yeah,
the support is key and the tools are key. So
it's definitely important. It's important to have, the right culture so that you feel comfortable coming into the office. You feel comfortable asking those questions. Access to your broker is huge. I didn't have a lot of those things. And then the tools and things of that nature. Like I remember when I first joined Coldwell Banker, I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have had this a year ago, I can't even imagine how much more business I could have done. Full transparency in my first year of real estate, I sold 10 homes, right? And that was with zero support, zero leads, zero like anything.
Wow, that's pretty good actually.
So I just, knowing what I know now, I would have been like, man, if I could redo that year, it'd be very different. But that's, again, why I ended up into this side of the business. Don't get me wrong. Every now and again, I'll help, fill in for an agent on vacation and go to a closing and I'm like, oh, I do miss it. But, at the end of the day, it's really about helping the agents live that dream.
It's funny how you say access to a broker, because Vanessa actually answers all my calls and all my texts on the weekends at odd times. Everybody has different times. I can't imagine how many other texts and other calls you may be getting from all the other agents. But
look, it's no different than when you are, because I don't compete with my agents, but, as a realtor, you just don't shut that off when you become a broker. If I was servicing my clients when they would call, or they were in different time zones, whenever they would call, or I was there, right? I'm on vacation, I'm picking up. So it's really no different. I think it should translate, if you do become a broker, that you're that way for your agents because they are your clients.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we'll move on to question number 2, which I think is also very important for our viewers. Since our viewers might be local Orlando or thinking about moving into Orlando.
Sure.
What trends are you seeing in the real estate market right now, specifically, Orlando being under the microscope?
Yeah, I would say for the Central Florida area, which is where we service, we do service some areas outside that, but if we're focusing on the Central Florida market, we are seeing what we would say a weakening market. And, what that means is, with all the uncertainty with the economy and rates being high, it kind of makes people pause, right? And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think we're going to see more of a balanced market when we come out of this. Hopefully, as the election passes tomorrow and people can see that we can move forward, there's going to be more confidence. And, we will see rates go down, maybe not to where they were at 3% or lower. I don't know that we'll ever revisit that again, but I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more confidence and more balanced market.
I see. I've noticed a lot of people on the fence, especially with the election. They kind of don't know whether they can, it's a good time to pursue a home or sell a home.
Right.
I think it's all because of the election, the environment is created, but I don't blame them. I would probably do the same if I were in that position.
Right.
I'd wait for this big event
to see. About to happen. Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't know which way the market will shift. I think the question number 3 might shed more light onto the question I just asked you about Orlando real estate. What are some common misconceptions about buying or selling homes in this current market or in this current environment?
So misconceptions, in the current market, I don't know that it applies just to this market. I think if we're looking just more of a general level, that misconceptions like you need to have 20% down, right, to get a home. That's not true. You don't necessarily need 20% down, depending on what loan you get, or even if it's conventional. So that's a misconception that some people have.
So before we move forward, based on what you just said right now, what is, if it's not 20%, what could it be? What can somebody go as low as?
So it depends on the lender. And I don't really dive into that scope. I let them wear that hat, right? I have people for that. But you certainly can get, to where you don't need to pay that much on a down payment.
Because I recently had a client that put down 3% on a home, and it was first-time home buyers. So it worked out pretty well for them,
right?
Knowing that they don't have to dish out that much cash out of their pocket. So I think I think that's good value to people who may not know this.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of friends who tell me, hey, you need 20%, you need 20%.
Right.
Not
It's
necessarily.
not necessarily. And so maybe that's your next podcast. You have a lender come in.
That's it. I get John
because
Smith
it's
on the board.
certainly true. I mean, every lender can do different things. There's different products. And, it is a misconception that people feel that they need 20% down. Another misconception was that, selling in the spring is the only time to get top dollar. Well, that's not true either, right? That's when we have a lot of competition. We do see a lot of homes on the market, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to get, a good price on your home. There's a lot of factors that, come into play, still, even in the spring. Upgrades always increase the value. We know that's not true. Sometimes the upgrades, it could help sell the home, but it doesn't equate to dollars, right? We've seen that with solar panels, right? And it's really hard sometimes to sell the home if there aren't comparables, or maybe they're too far into it, or, or a buyer doesn't want to assume that loan for the solar.
I actually had a client who paid off their solar, and instead of getting about 15 to 20% back, they were able to get 50% back only because he was paid off.
Right.
And that kind of put the buyer who was planning to buy the house at ease, thinking, hey, there's no other loan to worry about. The solar panels are only 2 years old. This is a good investment in their mind. They didn't have to worry about the headache of putting the solar in. So that's a good point. Moving on to question number 4, can you explain the difference between a seller's market and a buyer's market? I know it sounds easy. I know it sounds simple. But like you said, there's a lot of moving parts in this category. So if you can give us a little bit of difference there as to who would be in an advantage position as far as this kind of markets.
Okay, so a seller's market essentially means that there's more demand than supply, right? So that's what creates bidding wars, right? They have the leverage. We saw this a few years ago, right? It was just insane, right? And so educating your customer is really important when you are in a seller's market, because you are going to be up against other people trying to purchase that home. You're going to end up in bidding wars. So escalation clauses are going to be key. Flexibility is going to be key, right? You're not going to be able to ask for a lot of contingencies. So, it's really important that we advise the consumer what type of market we are in. Because there are some buyers that think, oh, well, they listed here, that means there's room for negotiation. That's not always the case, especially in a seller's market. Okay, that means that people will probably be overpaying for a home, right? That's a seller's market. Buyer's market, it means that obviously there's more homes available than the demand. So then they hold the cards, right? They can ask for different contingencies or down payments, or pick when they're going to close, right? They may get away with having their home purchase be contingent on the sale of their home, right? In a seller's market, no, they wouldn't even want to see it. They'd remove that, right? So that's really the difference. And as I mentioned, right now we're in a weekend market. I think it's going to land at a balanced market to where we're going to have the inventory, but maybe it's not going to be getting top dollar. Maybe there's a little bit of room for the buyers to get a good deal or get a warranty paid for. It could turn into buyers gaining more leverage depending how long that inventory sits, which again, we are seeing now. But I think it's a better place for both, because there's still negotiations for both sides in a balanced market.
So if you had to measure the current market today, as far as the Central Florida market goes, and if you had to pick between seller and buyer, where do we stand? If there was a bar and you had to point it out.
Like I said, it would almost be equal, because I think we're landing in a balanced market. Right now it's weakened. There is a lot of inventory. Homes are definitely sitting longer. Buyers are, being picky, right? And they are getting some contingencies accepted. So we're kind of seeing somewhat of a more equal playing field. But right now I would say the buyers have more advantage than the sellers.
I've seen my buyers have more options,
right,
versus 6 months ago, 8
right,
months ago. Instead of 2 homes, now they have 5 homes.
Absolutely.
So I think you're right as far as the balance goes, where we're coming into. But one thing I realized is out of those 5, the 2 are not dropping their prices.
Right.
They're stuck to their price. Their days on market, 100 days plus.
Well, if they don't have a big why, they don't need to, right?
That's true. Okay.
And so I think it's going to be on a case-by-case basis what you'll see. Just like some sellers are still getting above what they're asking for. Like I said, I think we're going to level out where there's an equal playing field for both to get some, some leverage and some deals done in that way where they're both winning, which is always the best transaction, right? Everybody wants to walk away feeling like won. So, again, right now we're seeing home sitting, which is showing proof that it is a weakening market. But I think we're going to land in an equal market, and hopefully that doesn't shift too much, right?
Hopefully soon after the election.
Yeah.
So moving on to question number 5, I think this is a fun question more than or maybe an informational question. What is the one thing you wish more clients understood about the buying and the selling process?
So I think that the importance of flexibility, again, is important when it comes to terms of expectations, right? Flexibility on the timing. Transaction can be complex. We know this,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Some things aren't necessarily the agent's fault, right? It can depend on the market conditions. It could depend on financing, inspections, appraisals. There's a lot of variables that come up. So I think, if they could have a better understanding and go into it more flexible, there's going to be less surprises when things don't go necessarily their way. They're going to be able to take that hit a little bit better. So, not everything's ever going to go exactly according to plan. Sometimes it does, but most times it doesn't. So I think if they, if there's one thing that we could try to, help them understand is all the moving parts, right? There's a lot of spinning plates, and that's why you hire an agent, so that you don't need to figure them out and experience them while they're happening. Yes. Having an experienced agent that knows the signs, knows what things to be proactively looking for so that it is smooth. And you do think it's an easy process.
And that's the goal of any agent is not to show the rough edges of the transaction.
Right.
At least that's my goal. I don't want to stress my client for a reason.
No.
When I know that there's another way out that I can take, of course, they're aware of every situation that I go through.
Right.
But I don't, necessarily put them in a place where I make them paranoid.
Right.
And I get paranoid myself sometimes because obviously it's a big responsibility. I take on a huge responsibility. I gain the trust of a client, and I would hate to break that trust.
Absolutely.
And not intentionally, but sometimes we have to not show the behind the curtains.
Right.
Because it's something that can be resolved easily between agents.
Professionals, right.
Exactly. Or we know what route to take or who to talk to.
Absolutely.
Or I come to you and say, hey, I'm stuck here. What do I do? You've gotten me out of multiple webs, I can say. So, and those something
that's
that I've learned.
That's part of the business. And each transaction is never going to be the same. I have agents that have been doing this for 35 years, and they're like, oh, wow, I've never had that come up before, right? So you have to be a problem solver. You have to be cool, calm, collected. The best thing you can just let, your consumer know is that, there's going to have to be some flexibility here. There are a lot of moving parts, but that's why I am here, to make sure we go through this process, and that I, am looking for any obstacle that might be, coming in our way. But 9 times out of 10, they never know anything happened because you were able to conduct yourself professionally. Correct. And get it to closing and come up with the solutions with other professionals in the industry. Because again, a lot of times we're talking lending issues or appraisals, right? That we can have those conversations. We can contest an appraisal. We can do lots of different things to get past the objection, whatever that might be. You
can be very creative in real estate. I've learned that, extremely creative. And we can leave that for another future episode. I think you might have already answered this question based on what I just asked you. But are there any? What is your approach in building clients' trust? This is something that is my number one goal, is to build trust, because they don't know me.
Right.
I have a license, great.
Right.
But they have to
really know me. There's 20,000 of you in the area, right? So there's so many to choose from.
And it's a big decision for them as to whether they're buying or selling. It's a big commitment, just like for anybody else. So they have to, the person they're working with, trust is the number one thing for me personally.
Absolutely.
And of course, that's Caldwell's, pillars. One of the pillars is trust.
Right. Yep. We're one of the most ethical brands out there, and that is huge. And, we've been doing this for 118 years. We have high integrity when it comes to those things. But I would say that it starts with being transparent, right? And communication is big. I think a lot of agents fail in that communication, because they might get the fight or flight. There are problems that come up and they don't know how to handle it. So it is important that you maybe meet with your broker or management or, experienced agents to talk through a problem before you take it to the consumer, right? You want to make sure you thought out all the solutions, right, before you bring the problem, right?
Got it.
But you still want to communicate those problems, and you want to bring it to a level. And not every time it is something that, is fear-based. It could be, you have a win or your offer is accepted. How do we want to present it, right? In case now, offers accepted, but we still need to get through inspections, right? So we don't want to build them up so high that they come down on that roller coaster, because maybe the next thing there's a something, right? So we kind of want to keep it, at a level base, when it comes to the emotional side of it and excitement, actively listening, right? A lot of agents I find will be thinking of what's the next question they're going to ask me, or what do I think they want out of asking that question? So we want to be actively listening and not going on to the next thing or trying to, forecast what the next question or hurdle is going to be from them, because each individual is different.
It is, and I've found it very how do I put this? I've found it very beneficial, me sitting down with the client, educating them, versus telling them what they're about to go through, or why this matters. Or sometimes I feel like telling them about it, explaining to them in great detail, gives them kind of an understanding of how the laws work, how the market work, how the transactions work, because not everybody knows this, right? This is why the realtor professional is important in the transaction.
Absolutely. So communication, listening, and then follow up, right? We don't want to just forget them when we close, and never see them again, right? We want to be making sure that the move was smoothly, everything is as they, expected. Is there anything else we can help with, and then go to the, purchase anniversaries and, all the other things that your CRM is going to hopefully tell you to go do. But, being authentic, following up, thanking them for the business, being there for support. I've seen agents where they didn't show up to the closing table, right? I've had, agents where they're on the list side and they have trouble maybe controlling that seller, and then they're hands off come closing, and maybe the seller didn't get out or get everything out in time, right? It's really important that you not just communicate and be transparent with your consumer, but with the other agent on the other side of the table, right? Because, you can't drop the ball. As difficult as whatever party you're dealing with might be, you always want to still have that good professional communication with that other agent, because it is a reflection of who you are and whether someone will want to work with you in the future, right? If they're in a multiple offer situation and they have a great relationship with that seller, they may say why they wouldn't choose your offer, and it could be solely based on their past experience with you, based on your professionalism or your communication or your follow through with them. So it's important that, you don't just look at it as how does the consumer view you, but how do your peers, how do your people in the industry, how do lenders or appraisers or inspectors, like how is their dealings? Maybe it's, a GC that's done some work for you, right? All these things are going to lead to either future referrals or not, future business or not. So
I agree. And recently I've come to an understanding that the other side of the party, the other side of the transaction, if it's a realtor, the amount of respect I try and give them, and honestly, because of that, it's been extremely smooth for me, because these guys are the ones who are doing the same thing I'm doing, but for the other side.
Right.
And their job is to make sure that the client comes first.
Yeah.
So I think, showing them professionalism, being authentic, being genuine with them has helped me a lot in the industry. So that's a very good point. I don't have any more questions, but I do have some rapid round questions that I haven't told you about.
Oh, great.
Just quick questions.
Okay.
I just want the viewers to get to know you better as well.
Okay.
They might even sound dumb, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
All right. Number one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. Number two, what is your favorite Netflix show?
Favorite? Oh.
Assuming you watch TV.
So you're saying show, you didn't say movie.
Okay, sure. Whatever. If you had to turn on Netflix, what is the first thing you're going to?
I love documentaries. So I like all that, mystery or just a docuseries. Like actually this weekend I watched the one on Martha Stewart, right? So
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily have to be a crime one. It could just be a biography. But that's what I tune into.
Something
Anything engaging.
All right. So I know you take some vacations here and there because you deserve it. Not that you're saying you take vacations all the time, but what is your favorite spot that you would absolutely go back to?
Favorite spot? See, that's tough, and I'm trying to branch out and go to different locations for different reasons. But my soft spot is my hometown, which is Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I find an excuse to go there every year, and believe me, there's beautiful places to vacation. I get that, but I don't know. There's something about your hometown that
Home is where the heart is.
Yeah.
Home is where the heart is. All right, awesome. If you have anything else to add to our viewers, if not, then I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me in my very first episode.
I know.
This is
Exciting.
amazing. I was very excited about this. I hope they find some value in this, if anything.
I hope so too.
Thank you again, Vanessa, very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
very
Yeah.
much.
No, I think I would just part with, if you're new to the business, hang in there. It's going to get easier. I promise. You close a few, right? You get that repeat business.
Yes.
You start getting a flow. You figure out what you like to do, what you don't like to do. So stick with it. Experienced agents, like we mentioned here, share your experience. Be that mentor. Be professional. There's always room to educate or be educated, right?
That's true.
New agents bring something to the table as well. So, help each other out and stick with it. All right. And best of
Awesome.
luck.
Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe to these videos if you find this helpful. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I can get to Vanessa and help you answer those questions.
Absolutely.
My son's been begging me to not forget that. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
It's the new
You
generation.
need to have the call of
coming.
action, right?
Call of action. All right. Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
again.
Khozaif.
And you're
This is
wonderful.
great.
Thank you.